Dave probably wants to do a roundtable of introductions, but we're ready to go for that, Dave.
Yeah, thanks, Royce. Okay, this is Dave Dubois, and thanks, Royce, for opening up and getting the go-to going. Much appreciated for the Weather Service and hosting this call every month. And so let's go around the call and introduce yourself and let us know who you are.
Morning, this is Raymond Nabeta with Bureau Reclamation in Albuquerque.
Good morning, this is Mariana Padilla with Congresswoman Lujan Grisham's office, just listening.
This is Michaela Hester with New Mexico State Forestry. I'm sitting in for Susan Rich.
This is Chris Romero, NRCS Snow Survey hydrological technician.
Good morning, this is Curtis McFadden, Army Corps of Engineers, Albuquerque District.
Good morning, this is Kyle Mason with the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management.
And here, this is Roy Spano again, here at Weather Service Albuquerque and the Senior Service Hydrologist. With me, I've got Sean Bennett, our meteorologist in charge, Molly Magnuson from the state is here as well, and Chuck Lawler. Chuck Lawler from the state engineers is here as well. So if you're ready, Dave, we're going to go and get rolling.
Sounds good. You may want to move the microphone closer to you, Royce, while you're giving the presentation, if you can.
All right. Got to do some swapping around here. We, like I said, it's a little bit different. So I'll get the picture here. You have it over here? Oh, you got it dialed in. Okay. Okay.
I don't have it.
Okay. Yeah, you're dialed in. Okay. That might be easier. All right. Let's get rolling, everybody.
Sounds good.
All right. This is our AHAPS precipitation for October, just how we finished out. Again, this is radar and gauge derived from our three river forecast centers that cover New Mexico. As we all know, October was extraordinarily dry. You can see there you look at that bottom right photo there, the percent normal precipitation, and other than a few highlighted areas on the mountains, everything was well below normal. However, the switch got thrown going into November. This is 30 days ending yesterday from our river forecast centers. As you can tell, we've moistened up quite a bit. Bottom right is the percentage of normal precipitation. A little bit hot in some areas due to radar and some other issues are going on, but the trend is certainly there. Precipitation has come back to the state by and large. Again, this was as of 6 a.m. yesterday. We still have some reports coming in. This is, again, from the River Forecast Center, so a lot of radar driven in there. Some gauge as well. We did have a systems outage, give you a heads up, over the weekend for a lot of our cooperative stations, so a lot of reports over the last 5 to 7 days have not gotten in. So the most recent event might have been missed a little bit. All right, this is PowerPoint cooperates here. All right, so looking at the data in a little bit different perspective, but same information. This is from our friends at Oregon State University, the PRISM program. Again, bottom right showing the overwhelming dry pattern for October. It was actually 63rd driest, but I went to double check that. I don't think I updated that particular one. But November, again, switch is flipped. Same thing. You're seeing the same highlighted areas where we have a good bit of precipitation came in through several events that have come up. So we've moistened pretty well through the state. So this is going to be a topic of discussion here coming up toward the end of what we want to do, if any changes with the drought monitor. So another perspective, I've talked a few times about climate divisions. This is from old stomping grounds at the Southern Regional Climate Center, specifically SCRIP, which is at NOAA RESA. It's a NOAA-funded project. But these are the climate divisions, last 30 days. So basically what we do on climate divisions is we lump cooperative stations together in a climatologically similar regime. I think this is a little bit better than looking at statewide number, a sole statewide number. But again, you see the trend over the last 30 days with only the climate division 8, that southwest part of the state, being below normal, and then that is only slightly below normal. And then 60-day, though, you see that October effect in there, that you just a good chunk of the state was well below normal, with only the western part of the state being at or above normal. So looking at the SPI, again, similar story, 30-day, we've seen a moistening based off some of these stations of going above normal on the SPI. 60-day, you still see some of that dryness in there. Same thing at the 90. And then the water year, of course, that's since October 1st, but you certainly see those pockets there. So, again, different graphics, same story. We're moistening up this last 30 days or so. Quick look at our snowpack, and Chris will get into this more. This was as of yesterday. These last few systems have helped. We've gone from very low to much better, so I'm not going to dwell much on that with Chris talking about it. But certainly coming up on the upper mountains, and then looking at Colorado, certainly an improvement in the upper Rio Grande Basin and in the San Juan. Then look, this is as of this morning from our colleagues over the USGS. This is the New Mexico stream flow instantaneous. So this is putting it in relation to what is normal. Most sites, again, are showing in that normal range for this time of year. A few sites below, and then many sites well below. But again, stream flow right now is about where it should be. All right, let's see. Okay, going into October, this is that statewide graphic again. There's the correct number statewide, 18th driest. Precipitation statewide only averaged a little over 1/3 of an inch. That is quite low, as we all well know. Again, October was extraordinarily dry. For the calendar year so far, January through October, we're at 26th driest, so well below normal. We've had a few good months in there, but we had enough below normal months that that's hurt us statewide. So, soil moisture, think, again, Brian Geyer here, one of our lead forecasters for putting this in there. This is the deep soil moisture, so that 0 to 2 meter column, 1 month change. We can see there's a particularly moistening up in the column from October. Most of this is probably going to be in that upper part with recent precipitation versus the deep moisture, but certainly it's a welcome improvement over the state. And here's that topsoil, that 0 to 10 centimeter soil moisture. This is a relative, percentage volumetric. Again, we can see the moistening trend, particularly over the northwestern 2/3 of the state. Still some dry areas over the eastern plains and southeastern plains, and of course that southern tier down on the Texas border and the U.S.-Mexico border. So here's the regional drought status. This is the current one on the street right now. Again, not a lot of change. I mean, that severe drought is still central and southern California. There's been some improvement up north there due to the storm track. And then over the New Mexico and southern Colorado, still showing here in New Mexico some pockets of D1. And, of course, over in Colorado, and more D1 and some D2 there. Current one on the street for New Mexico, about 5% of the state is in D1 through D4, which all D1 right now. Again, that southern tier is cleared up a little bit. This has not been a lot of changes. Still showing the northern state as abnormally dry. So here's our change from where we were 3 months ago, shifting the lines a little bit. Of course, we got rid of the D2, a lot less D1. But we definitely have an improvement there in the drought status. So let's talk a little bit about the extended outlooks here. I'm not going to dwell too much on them. Sea surface temperatures over the tropical Pacific the last 4 weeks, again, are maintaining below normal. We are, a La Nina advisory has been issued by the CPC, so they're considering us in a weak La Nina. So going in there, they've persisted. There's not been much change. You can see right there over the last 4 weeks, a little bit of a warming trend there in that most current weekly one, and we'll see that reflected here. But overall, sea surface temperatures, particularly in that Nino 3.4 region, which we'll show again in our map, is showing still below normal and meeting the operational definition of La Nina. Again, there's those weekly departures. They've come up a little bit, but you can see particularly that Nino 3.4 regions on average holding about minus 0.5. Again, when we talk about an operational definition of La Nina, El Nino, one thing that Climate Prediction Center looks at is that the atmosphere couples with the ocean. So just because you have the sea surface temperatures meeting the definition, the atmosphere is not responding, they're not going to consider that a La Nina or El Nino. The atmosphere is responding, so we are seeing that pattern. So we are considering in a weak La Nina right now. So here's from CPC IRI. This is from the CPC graphics yesterday. Again, La Nina slightly favored to persist through winter. The models, and this is something we've been kind of talking about for months, that going through the winter months, probably heading into neutral conditions. So a brief, weak La Nina. Again, here's some of the model outlooks, spaghetti diagram. The average is holding us just below, you can see the black line there, just below minus 0.5. And then going into spring, the averages are coming up out of La Nina. Again, here's the climate forecast system at ENSO, showing the similar trend, holding us in a weak La Nina coming up. So the ENSO forecast summary, again, our friends at Climate Prediction Center have issued La Nina advisory. La Nina conditions are present, meaning, again, the atmosphere and the ocean are working together to produce those typical effects that we expect. Those equatorial sea surface temperatures below normal, and they're slightly favored, a little over 50-50 chance to hold through the entire winter. So what does the outlooks actually show? These are the current ones issued the 17th of this month. For the 1 month for December, equal chances of precipitation. Not a really strong signal from CPC for December. So 33% chance of normal, above, or below. Temperature, though, CPC is reasonably confident that we're going to see a normal to above normal temperatures for and I did not correct, this is actually seasonal. So moving right in, this is 3 months. This is December, January, February, and CPC is still holding that above normal temperatures. And then the precipitation outlook for December, February, still showing us below normal. Again, that's a typical La Nina pattern. CPC has typically been saying that they're relying a little more on the typical pattern right now. And then, again, that is already shown there. So here is going into January through March. This is the 1.5 month lead. The trend is holding above normal to above normal temperatures for New Mexico, normal to below normal precipitation expected for New Mexico for that late winter, early spring. The takeaway, as it's been the last several months, continued warm and dry on average for the season. And there's some of the percentages. So seasonal drought outlook, again, issued the 17th through the end of February. Most of New Mexico looks like some drought development might be likely and some drought persisting. Again, this is not unexpected with the expected trends. So throwing in the CPC 8 to 14, this is yesterday afternoon's product. Again, for northern New Mexico, expected temperatures around normal. Most of southern two-thirds of New Mexico right at normal to above normal, and holding our precipitation a little bit below normal. Looking at the storm track, I took a look at some of the extended models, the European and the GFS this morning. That seems to be playing out here, that it's going to be an active pattern with systems coming through, but not a lot of precipitation. It's kind of a dry air mass over the area. So the storm track's going to be a little bit to our north with the moisture. In the extended, some of the models are showing a system cutoff low over southern New Mexico. We're talking in the day 8 through 10 frame. So we'll see how that plays out. Looks like some return of precipitation. So, any questions on that before I head into the discussion part? All right, and so on the discussion, on the left, current one, on the right is the current draft 3. Again, we do have some new people on the call, so I want to remind folks that everything on this call, even though I send out the slides, is embargoed until the drought monitor is issued. We do this for discussion, but we can't, anything regarding the draft is embargoed, or what decisions we discuss are embargoed until the actual drought monitor is issued. So there's the current draft on the right. Not a lot of changes from our drought author, who is on the call today. And that's all I have, David.
All right, thanks, Royce. Appreciate it. Just looking at the differences between the draft 3, I don't see a whole lot. I'm just looking at in terms of the D1 over in Quay, Curry, and the tips of Guadalupe. Just keeping an eye on that as the precip starts to accumulate there. I know we've been in a deficit over for more of a long term. And I know it says short, but
Yeah.
But in terms of last month or two.
Yeah, I would be in favor of keeping that there. Looking at the volumetric soil moisture, let me go back to that graphic. I know it's supposed to be an analysis. We did get a lot of precipitation coming through, but we are looking at kind of a dry spurt coming back as well. So
Yeah.
There is the 0 to 10 right there. And that's shown over the eastern portion of the state, still holding that D0. Let me turn on the marker here. And I don't know if y'all's going to work. We'll see. But this, yeah, it's not showing very well. But that area, I would be okay not changing that.
Right.
We've got some precipitation. We've moistened up, maybe trimming some of the D0 over this area through here. But we do know we have a drying trend coming in. So I'm on the fence either way. I'm not, I can be persuaded. The D0 trim back may not be a bad idea.
Yeah, that especially, I don't know what Colorado is doing, but I've been looking at the precip in the last few days up in Rio Arriba, Taos. I know we don't have any radar coverage that's decent up there, but I was just looking at the along Dulce through Bloomfield. I know there was a few places got 410. So I mean, it's been snow. I think it's snow up there because I think the temperatures have been below freezing for a while yet. I don't think they've gone.
Yeah, it's been all snow. We've gotten some reports in that area of ballparking 3 to 6 inches over this event.
Yeah.
So the 410, yeah, I haven't had a chance to look at the actual amounts. Like I said, the issues of weather code are getting opted in, but I would not be opposed to trimming that back.
Yeah, I think that may be something we can suggest to the U.S. Drought author this week, and we should see what Colorado is doing. I think they. Similarly, I think they've gotten some good snows. I've seen just pictures this morning. Purgatory. I mean, it's a little further west, right? But yeah, there's. So we'll see how this goes. I don't see much change in on the west side of the state. That D1 over in Cibola, Catron, bit of McKinley. I don't see a lot of. Change there.
Yeah, we've gotten some pretty, like I said, nicely, but we saw that really strong October deficit.
Yeah.
And like I said, my impulse in looking at that soil moisture is that's all top of the column, that deep column, below 30 or 40 centimeters is probably still pretty dry.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of the impacts in terms of forestry, and I think also with the forage and grass in that area, but I guess a lot of it's pinyon, juniper along that part of the state, I think, right? I mean, unless you get into higher elevations in Catron, I think there's pine. But more in the forestry impacts, and I think those are longer term. To me, I think it would stick a little longer in terms of not moving things very quickly, even though the topsoil may be moist. But I don't think that's too much.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, now that we've gone into winter too, you're going to get you're not going to get that same percolation where things are going to start coming as snow. So yeah, that's something certainly considers that long term deep soil moisture.
Yeah. Yeah, and on the southwest part of the state, that's probably one of the driest areas into Hidalgo and southern Luna County. I don't know if there's anybody on from the El Paso Weather Service office.
Someone logged in, so whoever's from El Paso.
El Paso's here.
Hey, welcome. So yeah, it looks like the precip comparison to normal has been pretty low.
We've had some small events. We're hoping that this upcoming system going Saturday, Sunday can at least affect our southern zones. Miles have been bouncing around. But I think we're probably still good. I think what we're in the D0 probably wouldn't really change too much, especially across the south. But it could be open to change after this coming weekend.
Yeah. Okay, so no real push to move any of the D0. Just keep it the status quo.
Yeah, I think so. Our other areas, the mountains haven't done too bad. Just actually had about 4 inches of snow up, in the Cloudcroft area, and 2-3 inches of snow up in the Gila. So just keeping the D0 over the lowlands is probably good, and see what happens.
Okay. That sounds fair. Thanks for the input. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Okay, I think that's... Does anybody else have any other comments on that? I guess we're more into the monitoring stage and seeing where things develop and change. I think we've captured some of the short-term effects of this drying period and see where things go. And then just tracking the D0 in northern New Mexico along the northern mountains, and looking at just kind of keeping track Climate Division 2, seeing where that goes. What was the, Royce, what were the Climate Division 2 percents?
Getting right back up here.
Yeah. I couldn't see a lot of the details on that table.
Yeah, so Division 2 is actually, and the color table is not great. It's actually above normal right now. Division 2,
okay.
At least through yesterday, was showing about 0.18 above normal, so 115%. Division 8, at least on the 30 days through the 26th, Division 8, that southern tier, mostly El Paso's area, a little bit of Midlands down there, is really the one below that, right about 78% of normal.
Okay.
So that, the color coding's a little off there, but yeah, they're the ones that seem to still really be holding on there. So I certainly agree with El Paso. Maybe after this system, let's re-examine it next week and see if we need to do some additional changes down there.
Sounds great. Okay.
Hi, this is Richard.
El Paso, real quick, who's on down there?
This is Jason Griswack. I'm sitting in for Dave Noblin, who's off today.
Okay, Jason, just making sure. I wasn't sure if it who's on down there. Okay. Well, appreciate y'all getting in here. So that's all I've got right now, Dave.
Did Curtis, did you have a comment?
No, I sure don't.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard you background.
Sorry about that.
Me. This is Richard Heim, the
Richard, okay.
U.S. Drought Monitor author. I have been listening in to the conversation. Very good. I wanted to summarize a couple things that I think I heard, and then I also wanted to make a comment on something else that I just recently looked at. And what I think I heard is some improvement, pullback of D0 in the north central mountainous area, keep the depiction as is in the southwest, in the west, and the east. Is that what I've heard?
Yes. Yeah, so
Good.
Just looking at Taos and Rio Arriba, I know for sure in up in the north. Yeah.
Okay, the thing I also wanted to make a comment on is looking at the SPIs, which you went through in your presentation, there's a lot of areas that are wet. There aren't very many areas that are really dry on the SPIs, at least over widespread areas. But the thing that caught my eye is the USDA NAS report for November 28th for New Mexico. And statewide, the current week, there's 67% of the topsoil moisture statewide is short or very short of moisture, and the subsoil moisture short or very short totals at about 47%. The pasture and rangeland about 25% poor to very poor. So I was really amazed to see that much of the state's topsoil moisture short or very short, considering the SPI maps and the precip maps that we've been having the last couple, 3-4 months. I guess that really dry October is what prompted expansion of that stuff, and the November precip just hasn't been enough to get those NAS numbers down.
Yeah, that's a great point, Richard. And I don't know how they do the sampling for, in terms of what is, do they only look at what is out on in terms of active agriculture, or is it the same? Do you know how they determine the topsoil moisture for the NAS?
I do not.
It's Davis Royce. From what I know in past experience, it's subjective from the county agent. Looking around, seeing what the topsoil is, talking to the producers, I do not think there's any objective scale there. And the other thing on the NAS is, at least, and Richard may have been able to find it, I don't think New Mexico reports it by county. So I don't know which agents are reporting. But I agree with, there seems to be a dichotomy there that, or a conflict that the objective measures SPI and then what we're seeing from NASA's sport seem to not be proving with that very well. So I am very curious about that as well.
Yeah, some states give a breakdown by crop reporting district or county, and some of the impacts reports using winter hay since September kind of stuff reported by county. But in New Mexico, the report that I'm looking at doesn't have any kind of regional within the state breakdown.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking at it too. But I imagine it's mainly winter hay, right? I mean, that's if somebody's out there looking at the soil. So it'd probably be limited to those areas. That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, I really don't know how that works.
I may have to make a call. See what's
under
going.
Crop, livestock, and pasture and range condition. They have pasture and range, pecan, winter wheat, cattle and calves, sheep and lambs, and that's it. So I suppose a lot of those parts are those sections of the state that have that stuff. They don't look at the really arid areas.
Right. And for sure, like pecans is very limited area, small areas. Well, something we'll have to.
Hey, Davis Royce.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let's chat this afternoon about maybe beating some bushes with the NAS folks, because I at least from years past in other places, their information's valuable, extraordinarily valuable for what's going on out there. But yeah, I'm curious too on what that information is, because that makes me wonder, or just to kind of quantify what I'm seeing. So I'm seeing great stuff from the objective, but the subjective seems to think we're in a lot worse conditions than we are.
Yeah, and this is the November 27th on that top agricultural summary. It looks like it's coming from the Mountain Regional Field Office. So I think that may be where we could start talking to folks. So, okay. Very good. Well, thanks, Richard, for listening in and bringing that up to our work group.
Thanks.
Alrighty, so moving on to Raymond Abeta, U.S. Bureau of Reclamation Reservoir Status Report. You ready, Raymond?
Sure am.
Great. It's all yours.
I'll start on the Rio Grande. Are you there?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, I'll start on the Rio Grande. Storages. The Toro, 15,783. Let's see. Heron, 82,612. Novato, 42,152. Avicu, 120, 495. Cochiti, 45,201. Let's see. Elephant Butte, 158, 673. And Caballo, 19,115. And on the Pecos, we have 56,000. I'm sorry, at Santa Rosa on the Pecos, 56,342. Sumner, 22,011 acre feet. Brantley, 33,322. And Avalon, 1553. So on the both basins, obviously we finished irrigation season, went well. No major disasters at the end at all, so that was good. Flows are continuous on the Rio Grande. Colorado's finally letting more water through. Usually they charge their system and really get a lot of water back into the groundwater and the ground. So anyways, water's flowing through really nice. Baco, same thing. Flows are continuous. We have a 15 CFS release coming out of Sumner to help augment the flows between Sumner and Roswell area. So we have enough water to do that for the rest of the year, and then again, the first of the year we'll bypass probably to keep it going. So we'll just be watching the snowpacks and see and making predictions. We'll see what we put storage in the spring and the runoff. So hopefully that'll produce for us. I'll have our fingers crossed, see what kind of year we have for next year. But otherwise, things are going well. Everyone's just taking a breather between the seasons right now. So that's all I have unless anyone asks questions.
All right, thanks, Raymond.
All right, thank you.
All righty, move on to NRCS. I think Chris Romero is on the call.
Yeah, I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, looks like you got my slides up. So I put together these slides yesterday afternoon knowing that it was going to snow last night into this morning. So I pulled some updated SWE numbers just to talk about when I get to that part. But I'll go over the snowpack and the precip over the water year so far. So starting in October, and then just a look at last October, November versus this October and November. And just keep in mind, for those that aren't real familiar, that this precipitation and snow values are based on just the stations and that area just surrounding them, not anything else. It's a good representation of the basin, but it's not all inclusive, and that goes to include the precip numbers as well. So can everybody hear me okay, or can you?
Sounds good.
Okay. So you've got the first slide up. I'm going to pull it up on my screen as well. It's a little easier to see. Okay, it's the snow water equivalent percent of the official median as of yesterday, or November 27th at the end of the day. So you can see the headwaters up in southern Colorado and then northern New Mexico, They're about 58 to 60% of where they should be. And then as you move over to the, Culebra Peak area on the eastern side of the Sangre de Cristos, you're looking at about 80 to 85% in some areas of the SWE, the official median. So it's not too bad, it's not great, but we're below where we need to be for this time of year. We've kind of caught up slightly based on where we were a week or two ago because of all the warm temperature over the past couple days. Next slide, please. And as you move to the south, you get down towards Silver City and then the Santa Fe area, and even over in Grant, it's a little different story. Right now I just pulled the SWE values for the Grants area, and it's 1,300% of the median. But that goes to say that the median isn't that great. So they got about 10 inches last night, so it's above average for November in that area, which is good, but it's not huge. And then down towards Silver City and the Gila, it's at about it says 300% of the median as well, and they had about 3 inches. So you got to take things in the right context. Up in Santa Fe, 80%. And then over towards the Caldera, where our new site is, but it's not reporting when I did this. Right on the rim, northern rim, they got some decent snow as well at 150 to 200% of the median. So, any questions on those? Next slide, please. So if you just want to look at the snow depth, talking about depth because that's what a lot of people understand outside of the water equivalent values. Up to the north in the headwaters by Del Norte, 9 to 10 inches. That's a pretty good ballpark for most of the area. Sangre de Cristos, 15, 16 inches is kind of the highest I'm seeing right now. Down in Santa Fe, same thing, about 8 to 10 inches. And then they got another 8 or so last night around the northern mountains as well. So 16 to 18 inches is about what I'm looking at. Next slide. Out in Grants, it was showing 6 when I did the slide. Now it's 10. And then down south as well, they got a few more, but between 1 and 3 inches. Next slide, please. And these are the western states. I put together this for the current snow water equivalent value for pretty much all the western states that affect us or are close to us. And you can see it's pretty much the same pattern. It's been warm with below average precip over a lot of the southwest, including Colorado and northern Colorado, and then Utah, Arizona. There's been a few, purple diamonds in there, above 200%, but they're spotty. It's not a trend all the way around. Next slide. And then if you just look at the month-to-date precipitation values for the state, we're above the hundreds in a lot of places. We caught up over the last week. It started to rain and then it started to snow. So up to the north, you're looking at most areas are 100% or more of the average precipitation for November. Down to the south, 165 to the west of the Rio Grande, and then a little further to the west, like 100% up in the Gila area. So not too bad, but just know that this is what happened last year as well. We got a large majority of precipitation at the beginning of the winter, and then it kind of skewed the numbers throughout the rest of the water year because there wasn't a whole lot after the January, beginning of February timeframe. So we get a huge influx of weather, and then it kind of skews the numbers for the next several months. So it'll start to decrease as the water year goes on if that trend continues of above average temperatures and below average precip. So next slide, please. And you should be looking at the water year to date precip statewide as of November 28th. So like I mentioned, you're seeing 133% in the Zuni blue water area, and that's because they got a great deal of moisture pretty much all around the same time. 50 to 40% up north, Rio Hondo 49, down in the Gila 75 to 94% of the average precip for October and November, sorry. Next slide, please. Same slide for the western states, water year-to-date precip. You can see the general trend in the neighboring states, Colorado, Utah, and Arizona, generally, 50% or below the average precip. It's been warm generally all around. Up to the north, you get into Wyoming, Idaho, Washington, California. They're benefiting from a lot of the moisture that we're not receiving. Next slide, please. All right, so you can see on this one, it's just a comparison of November 28th, which was yesterday, to November 28th of last year. And you can look through the numbers yourself. I'll give you a minute to look over the slide, but I'll just describe it. It's for each basin. When it says current as percent of 2015, that is the percentage of snowpack that we have now of last year's value. You can see our current percent of median. So for example, the Rio Chama is 86%. And then last year at this time, we had 98%. So in some areas, it's more significant. The Upper Rio Grande, we're looking at 67% of the median as compared to 107% of snowpack last year. Sangre de Cristo's 73 versus 177 last November. And if you remember last November, around the 20th or so, we got a big dump of snow. I was up in the Santa Fe area, and I remember somewhere around 20 inches or so. The Jemez River Basin, 109 now versus 188 last November. And next slide. Go over the major ones here. The Gila, 43, slightly above last year's percent, which was 29, so it's 150% of last year's average. The Mimbres, right now we're looking at 400% of the median, because at this time last year they had absolutely nothing. The Pecos, much drier than last year, 43% of 204 versus 204. San Juan Headwaters, 65% of median versus 97 last November. And then the Animas up Durango area, 78% versus 93 last November. The Cimarron, 86 versus 152. The other ones are pretty much dry at this point. And I promised you that I would give you the updated numbers here. I pulled them this morning as I came in. So the current snow water equivalent percent of median, in the Zuni Blue Water is 1,300%. Rio Chama, this is because of the storm last night, was 95%. The Jemez River Basin, 144. And then the Gila improved slightly, 90% of the median, and the Mimbres is now 550%. Then you were talking about snow in that area during the first briefing from the Weather Service, so they definitely got some moisture in that area as well. I think the next slide is just a blank for questions if anybody has any, and I hope I covered everything.
Great.
No questions, and I have this briefing available, and so does Royce. If anybody wants a copy of it.
Okay. Sounds great. We should.
That's all.
Yeah, great. Any questions for Chris?
Yeah. Did you have something? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
No, I thought you were going to ask something.
No.
I'm sorry.
No questions? Well, it's early in the season, but this is a good sign. We get some good amounts.
Yeah, we talk about, the ENSO predictions, a lot. We talk about El Nino and La Nina, and that's one predictor, but there's a lot of other factors that go into whether we get snow or not. So we just keep our fingers crossed.
Right.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks a bunch, Chris. So I think I don't think Anne Marie is on. Nope. So let's move on to. Are you doing it, Molly, or the state engineer's report?
Sure.
She's here with us, but I've got the slides.
Okay.
So I don't know, I'm pretty far away from the phone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I could. You're a little soft, but you may want to speak up.
All I'm going to say is that this is our standard report. When Raymond went through his numbers, they seem pretty close to what we have. So Bryce can just kind of scroll through and show you visually what the reservoir levels are doing. Basically, there's not a lot of changes anywhere from last month that I saw. I mean, some minor changes, but not anything major. And so you can just scroll through, and then you can ask any questions if you have any. And I do apologize for not getting last month's presentations up on the website, but I will get both of them on this week.
Okay. Well, thanks.
That's it on that one, Ed.
Yeah, thanks, Molly. Yeah, if you can get the October, do you still have a webmaster that can post stuff up?
Yeah. Yes, but I have to send it to her, and that's where the disconnect happens.
Oh, okay. Very good. That's just a reminder. Yeah.
This is Richard. I have a question concerning the reservoir storage volumes. I noticed there are a couple reservoirs up in the north central part of the state that are well below average. Is that due to water management practices, or is it due to it's going to take years and years of above normal precipitation upstream to fill those, or is that a drought useful as a current drought indicator?
Which reservoirs are you talking about?
I think it'd be Caballo, and it's the Elephant Butte is in the southwest, so it's not that one. It may be Abacu. The last two of the last 3 or 4 that were shown up in the north central.
So looking at the upper,
Abacu, that one, and the one I think before that one.
Elvado. And then
Heron.
Yeah, Raymond at Bureau Reclamation might be good on that one.
Yeah, it's just been the years of drought, and then the water usage hasn't been replenished. The snowpacks have been low, and demands have been pretty much where they've always been, but it just hasn't been replenished as we'd like to see it. So yeah, it's going to take some really good years to bring all that back up.
So they're not really reflective of current drought conditions in the area then?
Well, it does, because it just compounds year after year. I mean, you use, X amount of acre feet, but yet you only get X amount of snowpack, runoff, and it just keeps getting deeper in the hole. Back in the 80s, we had some really wonderful snowpacks, and into the mid-90s, and they would get replenished really well, and you'd use your water, irrigation, the municipal use, and then they get replenished again the next winter, and it just really hasn't been working like that.
So then when I show the improvement up in the northern part of the state, I should probably keep these areas in D0.
Dave, it's Royce. Do you have some input? I would be a little hesitant because that's a very, at least looking at hydrologic, that's a very long-term issue, like Redmond was saying, that you just compounding for those reservoirs where the local areas not dependent on the reservoir may not be showing up. That kind of makes sense?
Yeah, I think there's a disconnect with the drought monitor and looking at the especially with these kind of things when we may not see any improvement for years. So do we keep D0 for the next 4 or 5 years? Which I don't think that was the intent of the drought monitor. I mean it's sort of this pull I'm seeing, and I've always been struggling with it since I'm trying to figure out how to do this. Is with the snowpack driven basins it does play a factor in it, but it's not the driving one that triggers changes. I think does that make sense? I think it's just more of the impact areas as opposed to the source areas. I don't know if that sort of makes sense.
You can look at the. I'm sorry, I thought you were.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
You can look at this current slide here. The average is way up there, up above the 300 acre feet of water at Heron. But you look at last year, the numbers, and we're kind of comparable. Yes, we had drought, and this is an average of how long Heron's been in operation. And that's their average, so it could be 30 years plus of what was there in the 80s. It was quite wet, and everything was flush. But you look at last year and comparing, our practice has not changed. It's just the water upstream is just not there, and it's been like that for 10 years.
And also, I think I was hearing that the water upstream is out of state as well.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Royce. Molly just found numbers that's 81 through 2010 average.
Okay, thank you.
So Molly,
keep in mind with Heron is that that water is all through our San Juan Chama Azotea system. The tunnels come in from Colorado, so that itself reflects how low the water has been even in southwestern Colorado.
That's correct.
So,
if you look at Abiquiu, that's probably the best one, and it's not that much far off of what it's been doing since the average, as well as from last year.
Yeah. And if you really want to see the compounding effect of the runoffs, you look at Elton Butte and Caballo. You really see how.
Oh yeah.
That could take many, many years to bring back up to 2 million acre feet.
We don't want to see that one though.
Yeah, you don't want to look at that too hard. It's too depressing. But I did see that when we did fill it and spill it in the 80s. And those were some really big snowpacks, back to back to back to back, and that's what it took to bring it up. And we just haven't seen anything like that since the mid '90s. It's pretty much when it really started tailing off really hard. And so the '80s to mid '90s were really wet. In fact, the '80s were off the chart as far as moisture, as far as snowpack, and that's what turned Elephant Butte and Caballo around, and just filled them and spilled them. And for the mid-90s, it just hasn't been happening. And probably most of us probably wouldn't even see that in our career
right.
again.
And yet, and we put that in our averages, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, in fact, we had so many people move into Heron Reservoir for the boating and recreation, and they saw the 80s. You know, that's what they were vacationing. They saw, and so they thought that was normal.
Yeah.
And then now they're wondering what's going on here. Well, this is normal here, not what you saw in the 80s.
Yeah, so it's always a tough one to how do you depict this in the drought monitor, because the actual impact areas of the irrigation are a small outline of the Rio Grande, as you go down through central New Mexico and then into Texas. But so that, I don't know. I think we've had this conversation before. I don't mean
yes, we have.
Yeah. It's good to bring it up with some new folks on the line, but it's always a tough one to say. So how do we actually paint this map, especially if we knowing that we're probably going to be in this situation for a while, with 50% and what are we now? What did you just say, that less than 8% or something at Elephant Butte or something around there of the average? But then the average we say capacity, but then when did we get that? It was in the 80s, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we have, what is it, 1.2 million is
right
average.
Right.
That's been that years and years.
So I've been debating whether I should say that is is that a reasonable number to give people when we that's an extraordinary event, comparing to the worst, the best it's ever been. It's that much.
It may also be helpful to have a second column there, or another column there that is the 5-year average, perhaps, or 10-year average, and compare current against that
versus the 30.
Versus the 30, yeah. To have not to get rid of the 30-year average, but to have an additional average base average period that's more recent and shorter.
Yeah, that's a good point. Seeing where we have come from recently, because if we look back in the last 5 years, we've had some really low. We're actually doing better in some places compared to the 5-year.
Yeah. Yeah, and that way we can get an idea of the relative trend of the reservoir level compared to more recent dry periods. Yeah, I think having a 30-year average and having a 5-year average would be very, very helpful.
Good point. Okay.
So we can look at that and see what that looks like.
Okay, thanks, Molly. If you guys want to tackle that would be great. Be interesting to see what that looked like.
I can tell you one thing: it'd be a shocker for the Pecos, that's for sure.
Right.
We were in the teens or low teens in most of all of our reservoirs. So you'll actually see some positive things there.
Right.
Okay.
Going that one.
Well, very good. Let's see. I think I didn't hear anybody from the NMDA giving any agricultural reports, although we did talk about the latest NAS report, and that's something we'll follow up with to look at what are we actually looking at in terms of the soil moisture. So that's an action item. I heard is Michaela on the line with the forestry?
I am, yes.
Yeah. Did you have any? Have you been working with Susan on what Do you have anything to report, or you're just listening today?
I've been listening. I have some calendar year-to-date stats that I can share. For this year, we've had 611 fires. That's current as of this morning. And that has been a total of 117,030 acres. Compared to last year, it's over a 100% increase. It's actually 102% increase in the number of fires. Last year we had 302. And for acres burned, it's over 900% in that increase, because last year we had 11,305. Now keep in mind that these are the stats for statistical fires that occur on state and private lands, which is where we would have jurisdiction. I'm sure, as you know, the largest discrepancy between the fires and acres burned is because last year was an unusually low fire activity year. And other than that, we're just happy to see some snow, which will hopefully aid some of our planned burns for this winter.
Great.
That's all I got.
Anything upcoming? Any burns that we need to be aware of?
There will be one, hopefully, at Hyde Memorial State Park within the next 2 weeks, but the date is not established yet. They kind of want to see what the snow is going to do over the next few days and how wet it's going to be, and that'll help them gauge when it's going to actually take place.
Sounds good. All right. Any questions for Michaela? We're good?
Cool. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Michaela, for taking over this for this call. I think
Sure thing.
Susan was at a forestry meeting or something. I think that's what her email said. And I didn't think Anthony was on for FSA. Haven't heard anything from them. Probably not a lot of changes. I think there was some contiguous county down in Hidalgo or Grant, but that was about it. So, anything else that we need to bring up? If not, then let's look at our schedules for the next call. Going into December,